Grace and Faith run across the open golf course, their hands locked together in cold metal handcuffs, breathing heavily as they try to put distance between themselves and the hunters. A drone hovers above them, tracking their every move. It lowers slightly, and through it, Miss Vaughn's voice reaches Grace, telling her to listen carefully, because she knows a way to stop the game. But before she can respond, a gunshot echoes across the field. The drone sparks midair and crashes to the ground. From a distance, Ursula lowers her weapon, already closing in. The moment the drone is destroyed, the chase resumes. Grace grabs Faith, and both of them sprint toward the edge of the course, heading straight into the dense jungle, as the others move in from different directions to surround them. As the two sisters disappear into the jungle, the chaos surrounding them is not new. It all began much earlier. After the destruction of the Ledomas family, Grace had walked out of the burning mansion, while officers rushed in to control the fire. Exhausted and wounded, she collapsed on the spot. She was taken to the hospital, where doctors struggled to keep her alive. During that time, flashes of the night she survived began running through her mind, how she faced her in-laws and lived through it. 2 weeks later, Grace regained consciousness, but she was restrained to the hospital bed. An officer came to question her, already aware that she was Alex's wife. He asked how her entire in-law family had died, believing that she was responsible, especially with the blood covering her clothes. Before she could answer, a girl named Faith entered the room, leaving Grace shocked. Faith explained that she was listed as Grace's emergency contact, and introduced herself as her younger sister, someone she hadn't seen in 7 years. The officer stepped outside, leaving them alone. Faith asked what had happened to her, but Grace said she wouldn't understand, and instead asked about her life. Faith said she was doing well, had turned 18, and was now living in New York. She reminded Grace that she had been left behind in childhood, which is why she never tried to contact her. Now, she claimed to be living a luxurious life with her rich boyfriend, Derek. She then asked about Alex, but Grace insisted she hadn't abandoned her. Faith demanded the truth, saying she didn't have time for anything else. Grace then revealed everything, how she married Alex and went to his family estate, where they forced her to play a deadly version of hide and seek. That's when she realized they were trying to sacrifice her. They hunted her throughout the night while she fought to survive, discovering that the ritual was tied to a devil. She was injured again and again, yet managed to stay alive until morning, when each family member began to explode, one after another. Alex survived until the end, and she killed him herself. Faith was left stunned, and Grace knew this truth could never be told to the police. Elsewhere, a man named Chester Dunford watched news of an ongoing war while wearing a mysterious power ring. With a single phone call, he ordered a ceasefire, and within moments, the news confirmed it. The ring gave him control over global power. At that moment, the devil's lawyer appeared before him, informing him that the Ledomas family was gone, and the game would begin again. Chester immediately alerted the remaining elite families. Across the world, preparations began. In China, Miss Vaughan received the news. In Spain, Eddie welcomed it with excitement. In America, Bill celebrated while heavily intoxicated. In London, the Rajan family brothers, Madhu and Viraj, also prepared to take part. Back with Chester, his twins Titus and Ursula came to meet him. He explained that the game had restarted, and that the 5 families would now compete for the power ring. Only the eldest from each family would fight, and victory was everything. But before the game could begin, they had to kill him. Ursula agreed without hesitation, and together she and Titus suffocated him with a pillow, ending his life. At the hospital, as officers prepared to move Grace and Faith, Bill suddenly attacked, stabbing an officer and making his way inside to kill Grace. She hid and tried to escape while he moved unpredictably in his drunken state. Just as he was about to kill her, his body suddenly exploded. Faith was horrified, and Grace urged her to run. Before they could escape, gas filled the area, and both sisters lost consciousness. The lawyer appeared, explaining that Bill had broken the rules by attacking before the game officially began, and the punishment was immediate death. Soon after, a grand wedding at a luxurious hotel was interrupted when Ursula arrived and ordered everyone to leave. She and Titus cleared the McCann, preparing it for the gathering. They briefly encountered their cousin Kip, dismissing him as they focused on the game ahead. Later, all families gathered at a nearby villa. Eddie arrived with his son Chad. Miss Vaughan came with her son Chan. From the Rajan family, Madhu arrived with Denny Daniels and Viraj, all heavily intoxicated. The lawyers stood ready to explain everything. Grace and Faith were brought there, tied up and terrified. They were welcomed by Titus and Ursula, while the others watched with interest, impressed that Grace had wiped out an entire family. The devil's lawyer then addressed everyone, explaining that 6 families once served the devil, but now only 5 remained because of Grace. The rules were clear. If Grace survived, they must kill her. Whoever killed her would claim the power ring and ultimate control. Each family's eldest member would take turns hunting her. If one died, the next would step in. No one was allowed to kill a member of another family, or their entire bloodline would be destroyed. Grace refused to participate, but the lawyer reminded her that Faith was also there. If she didn't play, her sister would die. Faced with no choice, Grace agreed. Faith still didn't understand why she was involved, while Grace struggled to make sense of everything. The game was about to begin. Ava Adams arrived, furious at Grace for marrying Alex, her former fiancé. Tensions rose, and soon after, Titus injected both sisters, rendering them unconscious. Before the hunt began, every participant signed the Devil's Book with their blood. The younger members watched from inside as the elders prepared themselves. Eddie, Viraj, and Vorn stepped forward as hunters, while Titus and Ursula chose to play together. The game officially began, and all of them moved out to hunt Grace. Moments later, Grace and Faith woke up on the golf course, handcuffed together, realizing the game had already started. The two sisters reach a tall wall, but quickly realize it's impossible to climb, especially with their hands still locked together in handcuffs. With no way over, they turn back as hidden cameras in the jungle track their every move, while the children inside watch everything unfold. With no other option, Grace and Faith move deeper into the jungle. Faith blames Grace for dragging her into all of this, saying she got blinded by money and her rich life. Grace questions her about Derek, and Faith claims he works in finance. Grace begins to doubt her story, sensing that Derek might not even exist. Faith suddenly starts laughing. At that moment, Ursula closes in on their location, saying that they may think this is wrong, but for them, it's just how the system works. The sisters stay hidden, watching carefully, but from behind, Titus appears and attacks. Faith notices him just in time and pulls Grace away. Titus grabs her and tries to kill Grace, but both sisters fight back together and manage to knock him down before running again. Ursula arrives moments later, disappointed. She slaps Titus and reminds him of the promise they made to their father. Meanwhile, Grace and Faith spot the nearby hotel and decide to head back toward it to hide. From a distance, Eddie lines them up in his sniper scope and fires, but he has no proper control over the weapon and misses completely. The sisters notice the shots and rush into a nearby tent for cover as bullets keep missing them. Ava gets frustrated, pointing out that Eddie never properly learned how to use a sniper. Elsewhere, Kip secretly starts sending their location to others, but the lawyer notices, forcing Kip to quickly erase everything. Inside the tent, Fake spots a machine and activates it, releasing thick smoke. Eddie begins firing wildly into it, without any aim. Viraj moves in to finish the job, but Eddie accidentally shoots a nearby cylinder, triggering a massive explosion. The blast throws Viraj and both sisters across the area. Eddie panics, fearing the consequences if Viraj dies. Grace is injured, and Faith helps her up and takes her away as everyone watches in silence, while Viraj slowly gets back on his feet. The sisters manage to reach the hotel, where Faith starts treating Grace's wounds. Grace asks about her life, and Faith talks about how she came chasing her dreams, but got stuck after meeting Alex, never returning for her sister. Trying to ease the tension, they share a drink, but the moment is cut short when Viraj arrives to kill them. They run and hide in the basement, where they find a cutter, and finally break free from the handcuffs. The noise alerts Viraj, who tracks them down. Both sisters attack him together, overpowering him. They drag him to an industrial washing machine, force him inside, and turn it on. The machine crushes him completely. Grace stops it and pulls out his burnt remains to take his phone. Watching this through the cameras, the children react with shock, while Faith feels a sense of relief. After Viraj's death, the lawyer orders Madhu to enter the game as the next eldest. Madhu refuses, trying to set Denny in his place by declaring her his wife. The lawyer allows it on one condition: Madhu must transfer all his property to her. He agrees and signs everything over. Denny is then forced to enter the game. Meanwhile, Grace calls for help, explaining everything and giving their location, unaware that the call is being controlled by Ursula. Believing help is coming, the sisters search the house for a map. Upstairs, Miss Vorn confronts them but doesn't attack. She lowers her weapon and says she knows how to stop the game. She offers Grace a deal: marry her son and the ring will pass to him, ending everything. Grace would survive, and she promises her son is not like Alex. Grace refuses, saying she won't marry a stranger or become part of this. Vorn insists it's the only way, but Grace rejects it completely, refusing to tie herself to the devil. At that moment, Eddie arrives and starts shooting. Vorn tries to stop him, but in the chaos, Grace grabs her sword and uses it to kill Eddie. The moment it happens, Vorn realizes what she has done. She has broken the most important rule by killing a member of another family. Instantly, her body explodes, and at the same time, her son Chan also explodes elsewhere. Watching this, the others finally begin to understand the seriousness of the game, while Grace and Faith are left completely shaken. Both sisters pick up Vorn's katana and move forward through the hotel. Faith still believes Grace should have accepted the marriage offer, but Grace refuses, saying she won't spend her life trapped among these people and wants to end the game and escape. As they move, Faith brings up their past, saying Grace could have taken her along when they were in the foster home. Grace explains that she was 18 at the time, confused and unable to take care of her, while Faith was only 15. She says she had nothing to give her, which is why she left. Faith insists that she was still abandoned, reminding her how she begged not to be left alone with the police. Grace apologizes, saying at least Faith has a better life now. Faith breaks down and admits there was never any Derek. She reveals she works as a waitress and only got the job because of her looks. Grace listens, already having suspected the truth. Grace then calls the police again and asks for their location. The voice on the other end tells her they are near the main gate. The sisters head toward it, where they attack 2 guards from behind, capture them, and reveal that they already knew who they were dealing with. They force them to open the gate, but Titus refuses. The sisters threaten him, while Ursula coldly tells them to kill Titus if needed. Both siblings then try to turn Titus against Grace, reminding him that she has abandoned people before and could do it again. At that moment, Denny arrives at full speed in a car, crashes through the gate, and escapes. Madhu is left shocked watching it happen. At the same time, Ursula attacks Grace. Grace tells Faith to run the moment she gets free. Faith gets the chance to escape, but Ursula grabs Grace and drives a nail into her body, trying to finish her. Faith turns back, attacks Ursula, knocks her away, and pulls Grace with her as both of them escape back into the jungle. Now separated, Titus grows furious at Ursula for being ready to kill him. Elsewhere, the lawyer informs Madhu that he can no longer enter the game since all his property now belongs to Denny, who has already left. With nothing left, Madhu is left devastated while the others laugh at him. Grace makes it back to the hotel and painfully pulls the nail out of her own body, just like before. She becomes angry, saying Faith had a chance to save her differently. Faith argues that she did save her, but Grace says she could have escaped and brought help instead. The argument escalates until Grace says it was better that she left Faith behind in childhood. Hurt by this, Faith walks away. Grace follows her, trying to apologize, but suddenly Ava appears with a bazooka. She fires it incorrectly, causing an explosion behind her. Grace moves in and sprays pepper spray into Ava's eyes, but Ava turns it back, and both of them get blinded, stumbling around blindly trying to find each other. Elsewhere, Titus catches up to Faith, grabs her, and starts beating her. Grace and Ava begin to recover, but Ava attacks Grace again, trying to kill her for revenge. Grace fights back and slams her into a piano, knocking her unconscious. At the same time, Titus continues attacking Faith until Ursula arrives. In anger, Titus slaps his own sister. Moments later, Titus announces through the speakers that Grace has 10 minutes to reach the lobby, or he will kill her sister. Grace enters a nearby weapons room, gathers as many guns as she can, and prepares herself before stepping back out. Outside the hotel, she spots Ava and kills her. Then, she moves inside, where Chad immediately opens fire. Grace dodges the shots and makes her way downstairs. In another room, Titus is holding Faith hostage and calls out to Grace, threatening to kill her unless Grace comes out. Grace agrees, but only on one condition, that Titus must marry her. She explains that this would end the game, give him the power ring, and allow both sisters to survive. Titus checks with the lawyer, who approves the idea. Grace steps out and reunites with Faith as preparations for the wedding begin. After some time, Titus gives Grace a room to get ready, leaving her with attendants while he waits, eager to become king. Once she is ready, Ursula visits her and says that she will soon become part of their family. She explains that Titus has always been naive and that she has controlled him. But now together they could control both him and the power. Titus overhears this conversation. Realizing the truth, he loses control, grabs Ursula, and kills her in front of Grace, stating that killing a family member carries no punishment. He then warns Grace that if she betrays him, she will face the same fate. An hour later they descend into the underground Devil's Temple. Grace stands ready for the ceremony with Titus and the lawyer. Faith is present, along with members of the other families and the remaining children, all gathered to witness the marriage. The lawyer begins the ritual, summoning the devil. A sacrificial pit opens at the center, and a goat is brought forward as an offering, continuing a tradition that had claimed human lives for centuries. Grace and Titus sign the devil's book with their blood and exchange rings. They complete their vows, and Titus leans forward to kiss her. The lawyer then presents him with the power ring. Titus puts it on, and everyone begins invoking the devil. In that moment, Grace suddenly takes a pen and repeatedly stabs Titus, killing him. She reminds everyone that killing a family member carries no punishment. She removes the power ring from him, puts it on herself, and throws his body into the pit. With the ring on her finger, Grace becomes the most powerful among them. She orders everyone to bow, and they obey in fear. She asks the lawyer if the power is absolute, and he confirms it. Grace declares herself free from the devil and from all of them, and the lawyer acknowledges it. The remaining members demand to know who will rule now. The lawyer says that whoever holds the ring rules. Without hesitation, Grace throws the ring into the sacrificial pit. Everyone rushes toward it, jumping in and turning on each other in desperation. As they fight inside, Grace and Faith step away, taking the goat with them. Moments later, the pit reveals itself as a trap, and the devil causes everyone inside to explode. From above, the lawyer, Grace, and Faith watch in silence. Then, for the first time, the devil appears before the sisters, confirming that they are now free. In the end, Grace and Faith walk out together, leaving everything behind, choosing to stay together as they move forward.